back in the building. Big episode today. First and foremost, everybody, thank you so much for supporting the Talking Swish movement. Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time ever coming on here, please consider liking, subscribing. We would be honored if you would do so. My name is Al Harris. With me, as always, is my co-host, Sam Allen. Sam, what's good?
Yes, sir.
Hey, in the building. And today, man, we are graced by a literal town legend, straight out of Oakland, California. One of my first ever teammates. Literally, we go back that far. Look forward to getting into that story. I was looking up how much of a bio I wanted to give, and I realized it could easily take up 25 minutes. So I'll just give up the main highlights.
Nothing but the hits.
I mean, a legend, bro. Straight out of Oakland, California, Oakland Tech High School, 4 league titles, which means every single time this guy played in high school, he won the league. That's an absurd. What are we talking about? 18, 8, and 8 as a senior. Like, my guy was just, you must have made a bet, like, I'm only going to average stuff that ends in 8s. Many games where he had a quadruple double, not a triple. Quadruple double. He went to a small school that nobody's ever heard of called the University of North Carolina. Ridiculous. Won 2 national championships there, child's play. All this guy does is win, man, and all he does is make me look bad. I honestly am mad that you're here. You know, nobody's ever going to take me serious as a former basketball player again now that you've been on the episode, but whatever. And yeah, he does another little small thing now where he raps on Grammy-nominated albums with superstars such as Rhapsody, over beats by legendary producer Knife Wonder with the Jam Law family. I don't know how we're going to squeeze this into one episode. We might have to put you on a monthly rotation, my guy. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Quentin Thomas, AKA GQ.
Man, thank y'all for having me, man. Sam, Al, thank y'all for having me, man, on Talking Switch, man. I'm glad to be here.
Man, bro, like, so much we got to get into, but first and foremost, man, I want to jump right in because I don't even know the answer to this, man. When did your basketball journey begin?
Straight out the hospital, man. One of my closest friends of my dad, they told me when I was born, he came to the hospital and he had like a small little basketball and put it in the crib. And ever since then, I've been rocking with it, man. I've been rocking.
Legendary. You ain't coming home with it.
Right. I had the basketball. I wish I had the picture I could show y'all, but moms gave me some white and Carolina blue Nikes. It's crazy looking back on time, man, but I just feel like God works in mysterious ways. But we rocking tonight, man. I'm here with y'all. Let's do it.
It was written.
I was just gonna say it was written.
That's crazy.
Was Pops a diehard hoop fan? I'm just gonna ask real quick. Like,
he wasn't, bro. Like, Pops played he played football most of his life. He played Pop Warner. He went to Skyline High School in Oakland. He played a little bit, but he just played it just because he loved it. You know, he wasn't as passionate as you and I were growing up with our sport. But Pops is, you know, Pops, man. You know your uncle. He always wanted to bring out the best in his kids, and however he could help. Whether he was making me dribble with one hand tied behind my back and I'm crying in the backyard at 6 and 7 years old, till, you know, I'm coming out the game at Cameron, we playing Duke, and he's right there. You know, I've always just had a great support system, him, my mom, and it's always been a village. I always tell people, man, it's taken many villages, you know, just to help me get to wherever I was trying to get to. So I've just always been blessed with good people, man.
That's amazing. You said since 6 or 7 you was doing like drills. When did you start playing like organized sports, like organized on a team?
All right, this gonna throw y'all a loop. So when I started playing, I say 8 years old, I started I went to this camp, St. Leo's. Shout out to St. Leo's School in Oakland, California. The coach's name was Ed Williams, last name Williams. And I was 8 years old, 7. I was 7, about to turn 8. And he went to my dad. He was like, man, I'm about to start this AAU program. And back then, my dad had no idea what AAU was. He was like, you know, I guess, he's like, man, I'm putting together this 12 and under team. My dad's like, whoa, he's 8. He's like, yeah, I want him to play now. And that's how it started, man. I started at 8 playing AAU, and from then on, it just kept going, man.
Shout out Coach Ed, man, legendary figure in the Bay.
What was that team? Do you remember?
Name of the team was the Tar Heels. My honest God,
it's getting weird. It's getting weird. He
Yeah,
played for Coach Williams, played for the Tar Heels. Come on, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. I played at that time. I was the baby, so I was playing under Jason Gaines, who went to USF, Markeen Chandler, who played overseas as a pro. Shout out to King, shout out to big bro Jason, and Lorenzo Alexander, who wound up going to St. Mary's High School, being a phenomenal football player, played for the Buffalo Bills, the Redskins. Zoe, if I forget a team, forgive me, but I was just always around, talent and big brothers who embraced me and just pushed me to be great, man. And then it went on. I started playing with Al, but we'll get into that. I'm pretty sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Right before we hop into that, I really want to know your take on just being a young kid growing up at Oakland. And, just speak a little bit on what life was like for you, just being a shorty that always had a basketball with him and growing up in the town, if that influenced your game or your personality in any way.
Growing up, we started off in the West, right on the borderline of the West and the North on Apgar Street until I was about 7 again. And right then we moved to East Oakland. So I'm an East Oakland baby at heart. But I always tell people, man, I got so much love for the town. I grew up, born and raised in the East, like I said, by way of Apgar in the West, went to Oakland Tech in North Oakland on Broadway. And so I think it was just something that was instilled in me at a young age, playing at Bushrod, playing at Tassa, playing at EOYDC, Brookfield, Rainbow, of course. So all over the town. And you know how I was playing in the town and just in the Bay Area, you play with some gritty people. You had to have that grit behind you. And I just love basketball. It was crazy. I never really had any high expectations, even as a youngster. I just love to hoop, and wanted to be the best I could be.
Was there a moment where it clicked for you? I feel like you were so good at such a young age. I feel like you were known already at such a young age. Did you realize I'm talented from the jump, or was there a moment where you felt like a turn, like, oh man, I just started playing better?
I think it started off just loving the game, loving basketball, and more importantly, it was dope because I always tell people I was blessed, because when you're playing a sport you love is one thing, but then when you get to play a sport with people you love, that's totally different. You know what I'm saying? So playing with the Tar Heels and then going from the Tar Heels to playing with the Rebels, with you guys at Bushrod, and playing under Coach D. Smith, shout out D. Smitty. It was just, and playing with Coach Parker, with Powell and AAU, shout out Coach Parker. And you know the type of people we play with, Worm and Antonio Parker. And it's crazy watching James Akinjo Jr., because I always tell people, if you see the junior, if you would have known his dad, AKA CG, West Oakland's finest, it's crazy, man. But I think my turning point, honestly, for me looking back, Al, was middle school. I say when we started playing middle school AAU ball, that's when I was like, all right, you all right. You kind of all right at this. You know what I'm saying? And it just turned into something more. I've always been my worst critic. So people would be in your ear, you're good, you can do this. But I never really let it get to my head. I just used to always push myself. And, as a point guard, I think that even before I hooped, it was just the point guard mentality in me. And what I mean by that is just always wanting people around me to be better and seeing them. And I think I tell people this, when Pops used to take me to the parks, and he'd always take me where the OGs and the older kids was playing. And at first they wouldn't let me get on the court. So I'm like, how the hell am I going to get on this court and still be able to play with them? And I'm like, well, maybe if I give them the ball, they'll let me play. And then back then, you had the likes of J Kidd, and Pops used to have me watching Pete Maravich tapes, bro. Like, You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching Pistol Pete tapes and I'm watching the documentary of him spinning a ball on his finger for an hour. And it just became fun. It was just the reaction from the crowd. You know, everybody was score. Of course, you could drop 30, 40 on any given night, any given day. But just to be able to watch Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and see the impact they had with the handles and dribbling as well as passing, it was just something that just clicked, man, at an early age, and it just became me.
Did you play any other sports growing up?
I didn't, man. I wanted to play football, bro. I think if I would have started playing football, I honestly tell people if I would have played football at a young age, I think I wouldn't have hooped. But my dad took me to a Pop Warner tryout, and I wasn't trying out, but he took me just so I could see. He was like, "I'm gonna take you just so you could watch and see these boys getting what they."
Do you know what age that was?
About 9
Okay.
or 10, about 9 or 10. You know what I'm saying? And I went back home. I'm excited. I'm like, Mom, I went to the practice and it was this and that. My mom like, you're not playing football.
Shout out Miles, man. Miles, no.
Shout out LT. You know, LT's like, you ain't playing football. You're not about to break your bones. And I'm like, well, I guess that's that. But it was cool, man, because I feel like what I got to put into basketball my entire life, hadn't I did that, who knows? You know, I might not have reached certain peaks that I did throughout my life with basketball, but I think it all paid off in the long run, though.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
You dropped a legend's name. Big shout out CG, man, because that was one of the first players in Oakland that ever made me feel like I'm in the presence of greatness, like that I saw with my own eyes. That was one of the first times I realized, you know, that dude's on another level than me. And I had many moments in my life like that. One was when I met you. One was when I saw CG play. One was when I saw Antonio dunk on somebody for the first time. Big shout out to Antonio Kellogg, who's made of steel. And so guys like that, when I hear that name, I remember feeling in a good way insecure about my game because it drove my work ethic through the roof. Like it was just like I would watch Q play, I would watch CG play, I watch Tonio play, and immediately go home and do ball handling drills for 2 hours because it was just like, I'm not good. I'm not good. So big respect. And before we move on, I'm curious if you remember the first time you and I met or shared a court together. So obscure. I'm sure you probably don't.
I don't remember because it's crazy because I just remember flashbacks of playing PAL with you, bro, and playing in the Nike League at Madison. Shout out to my people in Sabrani playing at Madison.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring this up, but me and Al, you know, we've always been family, you know, extended family. I used to spend the night at Al's house, and this when N1 tapes used to come out. Me and Al would go to the mall and we would go get those tapes with Rayford Austin, Hot Sauce, AO. Matter of fact, I still call Al the Clown Prince to this day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We would go watch the N1 tapes. As soon as the N1 tape was done, we going straight to the park practicing every move, making up moves immediately. And that's what we did as kids, man. We would go from one gym to another, one park to another. Wow. So I mean, you know, even having you, Al, it was a blessing, bro, because we just pushed each other. You know, we pushed each other ever since we were kids, man, ever since adolescence. So it was just always a joy to play with people that you respect. Yeah, that's family too. So it was always full circle.
The feeling is more than mutual, man. And playing with you, with Shay, Oakland Powell, where we first got together was for me such a gift and a blessing because at that time I didn't really have my stripes in the town. I was cooking in Alameda. We were, you know, winning games easily, thought I was a star, but a lot of Oakland cats didn't know me. And I didn't have that like, welcome to the town moment, right? But when I started playing with you, I think you saw too, like how good I wanted to be. We both had the passion. We both watched hoops all day long, and you really welcomed me into the Powell family and the Oakland Rebel family, which to this very day still feels like home to me. And it was where, you know, the game just made the most sense and the passion developed. So I owe you for that forever, bro, for real.
Oh man, you did everything, bro. Like even with this podcast, y'all inviting me, but bro, to see you go from a child playing hoop to then going to middle school, then going to St. Joe's to win state. You know what I'm saying? I ain't win state. So when you won state, you won. I was going vicariously through you. I won it vicariously through you. You know what I'm saying? I was living through you. But again, man, like I'm just so proud of you as the man you are, the father you are, and still the man you're becoming, bro. So just know it's always mutual, bro.
Appreciate that, family. We're not gonna compare accolades because nobody's beating you in that category, man. Let's
wait. What's the answer? When's the first time you guys shared a court together?
So we were in Brookfield. I don't even remember the name of the gym over there where we used to have Oakland Police Activities League practice. This had to be fifth grade, sixth grade. Coach Parker, who was the father of Darius Parker, who we call Worm, Oakland legend, Antonio Parker, his older brother, and we hopped on the court. I think Q and I were the youngest kids. So they were gonna not let us roll, but we were on the side at first. I walk in the gym and Q's on the bench, like waiting to go in. And then they were like, yo, you want to play? I had on jeans. I was like, yeah, I want to play. So they would let me hop in. And Q was like, yo, come down here. Cause I'm like over in the top talking to my parents. He's like, come on, bro. I'm like, okay, my bad. You know, I hop over.
Y'all didn't know each other at that time?
No, we didn't know each other. First time meeting. I think we must have been playing with older kids because I didn't
calling somebody over.
Play. So I think my brother was hooping on this first practice. It was the older team. We were playing with older kids, but they was gonna let us run. I get in and it's very apparent that I'm younger. Everybody's bullying me, you know, having their way. I didn't play well. Q gets on the court. Guys got to be a year, 2 years older than us, everybody that we're playing against. And Q is by far the best player on the court, having his way with everybody, slicing, like crossing everybody's soul up, no look passes, just whatever he wants to do on the court. And I got back in the car like, yo, who is this Q guy? From that moment on, you know, honestly, man, I was in like competition mode, but also like fan mode of like, whatever you're doing, I'm gonna start doing.
Set the bar.
Man, we pulled, you know, Q welcomed me to his home. I met his family. And he's at the top of the cul-de-sac doing 2-ball drills. I never even heard of that before. And I was right behind him doing 2-ball drills. I'm like, man, I got to get on this guy's level. And so, man, truly, like, he welcomed me into his world. And it changed my game for the better still to this day. So anywho, that was way, way back. I don't even remember the age. We had to be like 5th, maybe 6th grade at that
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, it was, matter of fact, it's crazy that you brought that up because I was just with Joshua Ferguson. You know, Joshua Ferguson.
My guy.
You know what I'm saying? So it was me, you, Josh, Worm, T-Time, Reggie, you know, and it just came together, man. I always tell people you couldn't write a story if you tried to create one in that sense. You know what I'm saying? The way that we came together and the way that we were all united just through a basketball, you know what I'm saying? And to this day, from the 4th grade, 5th grade, now we're in our mid-30s. And we're all still close. And that's what I try to tell kids nowadays, like basketball will take you only as far as you allow it, but also appreciate the people that you take that journey with, you know what I'm saying? Because one day that ball will stop, but those people will still be there. And, you know, treat people right. I know a lot of people who were talented, but they weren't the best of people to be around, you know what I'm saying? So you have, and really speaking for the kids and some parents who may see this, it's like character. My dad used to always say character, man, means so much more than the game. And I used to be like, man, it's a whole bunch of people that's raw and don't give a damn about nobody. He like, yeah, but it won't always last. You know what I'm saying? So I just always used to try to embrace people, but always treat people right. And that goes back to the point guard thing. Like I used to love, Al will tell you, man, I used to always play with people who could score. Like, I know I could score when I needed to, but when you got Al on one wing, Eric Flato on one wing, T-Time on one wing, it's like, oh, they gonna drop 30. I'm cool with getting my 12 and 10. Like, it's cool, let's rock. But that's how that came about.
I think I'm so glad you brought that up because I meant to say when you touched on it earlier, you are the last of the dying breed, man. Like I won't call you past first point guard, but you are a point guard who loves to pass, which nowadays is so hard to find. It's so underappreciated, but you hit it, right? Everybody loves playing on your team, which naturally, you know, you got the best players that also want to play with you and you're making them even better and you're still shining, right?
Right.
Now it's like, man, respect to all of them, but the Trae Youngs of the world, you know, like the point guards that are glorified, they're not thinking like, let me make everybody better. They're thinking, let me drop 40 balls, right?
So this is, I got an interesting thing.
Oh,
Like,
shoot.
when was this like when was this acquired? Because when you were growing up playing, like, it sounds like you were the best person on the court at any court. Like, when did you shift from scoring 40 to like, I'm gonna get my teammates involved? And like, that's a really hard thing to do for a young kid who can go score 40. Like, what was that evolution like?
Okay, well, I like to explain it this way. I think it was just also what I saw at the time. You know what I'm saying? When we were coming up, you had, you know, I didn't see Magic play in person to understand it, but I had the tapes to see him and Isaiah Thomas. And like I said, Pistol Pete, the Jason Kidd. Then you get a little bit older, you got Jay Will and different players like that. And I think it's just the evolution of basketball. And I think it's like every 10 to 15 years, things change. You know, back then we had the point guards who were pure point guards, pass first point guards. And then from there, you had the AIs who will give you buckets. And then you had the Vince Carters who was jumping out the gym. And so you have kids trying to jump. You got kids seeing AI doing crossovers. Now you got Steph shooting 40 feet, Dame shooting 40 feet, Trae shooting 40 feet. So I think it's just something that the evolution of the game, it goes over and over. You know, I truly feel like in the next 5, maybe 10 years, maybe less than that, it'll be another point guard that comes that's like a pure point guard. Chris Paul is one still here in the game, of course, but you have those point guards where it's like, oh, I can do that too, and still people like me and people still want to, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just the evolution of time we grew up and what I saw around me, but naturally it was never forced. I always tell my dad, man, I was addicted to embarrassing people, man. Like I loved embarrassing people. If I could make you fall, I would come up the court and I would look at my defender and you could look in his eyes and you could tell like, oh, he don't want to play defense. He don't even want to be on this court at this time. And it was fun. We played in the Easter tournament at Bushrod and it was like everybody from every hood in this small gym. And if you get embarrassed, you're going to hear about it, not for a week, not for 2. You might hear about it for the rest of the year until you get another chance to redeem yourself. So I think it was something in me that just thrived off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like I'm a big Marvel fan. Well, not a big Marvel fan, but I'm a big Incredible Hulk fan and a big Venom fan. And I think it was just that, you know, how the Hulk was like when he gets angry and the angrier he gets, the more stronger he gets. So for me, it was like, well, if I embarrass one person, I'm getting a little, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting that Mario mushroom bonus up, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let me do this again. And let me throw it behind the back pass or a no look pass. And then Al in the corner. So I know he's going to hit that 3. And now he's feeling good coming back down court. So he wants to play defense even more, you know what I'm saying? So it just, we fed off of each other, bro.
Wow, man. I still to this day remember it was playoffs, I believe, OAL playoffs. I'm watching the film, and your pops used to film almost every game. Right. Now, I don't know if you still have the film, but you slid somebody, made them fall, and then pointed at them as you went up to the court. Yo, that was one of the most legendary. And Oakland was talking about that for at least a decade afterwards.
And I always joke about, because B-Town and DeMarcus Nelson, another incredible person that we know, of course, went to Duke. Shout out to both of them, to Marky and B-Town, who's coaching now with the kids. So we played Vallejo. It was a playoff game. And respect to the guard, I don't even know homie's name, but the game was over. It was like 2 minutes left. We up by like 15, 20. But he was just chirping the whole game. And like I said, the game is over, but he pressed up, go between the legs, behind the back. I'm running. And I just see him going full speed. I'm like, stop on a dime. And when I seen him start falling, I'm like, boing. And it was funny, bro. I don't know if I ever told you this. Pops was hot at me after the game. Pops was hot, you know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, that game, Coach Holiday, who was my assistant coach at Carolina, he was there. And Pops like, man, you didn't have to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have to. I wanted to. Like, I was a showman. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I was a showman. Like I would I would dance. I would do the moonwalk on people before I do a crossover. I was and one again. I would see skip, so I throw my own little skip and my variation. But I was a showman, man. I loved it. You know what I'm saying? I love doing it.
Unreal, man. I gotta ask, were you named a lot of legends up there? I know you like to see from the N1 tapes to the league, watch guys and then go try and emulate moves. But was there one point guard or one player that you enjoyed trying to pattern your game after most?
That's tough, bro. I love so many players. Growing up, honestly, I love Penny. I love
Mm.
Penny. I love AI. Sixth grade, I'll never forget we had to wear uniforms at Monterey Middle School. I had the Adidas, I had the crazy 8 Kobe's.
Me too. Those were
I grew my hair out and made it nappy in the morning just to be like Kobe.
The mini fro.
Yeah. And going back to CG was the first person, you know, we grew up in the era of Jordan, you know, so when people was wearing jerseys and picking numbers, most people was trying to pick 23, maybe 1 for Penny. But I kept seeing CG pick number 3. We were playing PAL. I'm like, who wears number 3? We kept always talking about this kid at Georgetown. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? Leave Santa Monica. I start watching college basketball more. I'm seeing AI. I'm just like, oh my God, like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? But I loved all type of players, bro. Like, I don't think I ever had like one specific player that I tried to emulate my game after. We had this small court, one of the suction courts that you put on like a wall or on a refrigerator. I would try to do dunks and emulate dunk contests from Dominique and Mike and Clyde Drexler and all of them. I just loved everything, man. So I try to emulate everybody that I saw and I admired as a basketball player and put it into my game.
Yeah, it's fire. Tell us about OAL, man. Like we mentioned in the beginning, you won the league every single year you played, which is insane. But tell us about playing at Tech and playing with the likes of Leon Poe, Kenny Smith, Deuce, Ticket, Dirty D, Derek Bruce, and Armando Surratt, Miami and USF guard. What was it like to just play against so much D1 talent and to be on a national scale, winning games and making noise, man? Describe that.
When I first got to Tech, like I said, I grew up in East Oakland. So going to North Oakland, I knew Ticket, I knew Dirty D, I knew Deuce, I knew Mondo, because I either played with them or played against them at Bushrod. When I got to Tech, it was like starting over all again, you know, trying to make a name for yourself in high school at this point. And I remember they had tryouts and they had JV on one side, varsity on the other. And like 9th and 10th grade over here with JV, 11th grade, 12th grade to the left with varsity. So I'm in the 9th grade, I go to the right. Mondo like, what the hell are you doing? Like, come over here. I'm like, he told me to go in the 9th grade. He like, man, you know you don't belong over there. Like, come over here. And we were in the boys' gym. And if anybody knows Tech in Oakland, the boys' gym is the older gym. So it has the steps at the top. So people out of school, they used to come to the tryouts. And I'm just, me and Mondo going at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm throwing the ball between Mondo's legs, doing a whole bunch of stuff. And the first OAL game, we played Castlemont. I'll never forget. And they had Man, Don, all those type of players. Chris Green, CG, shout out to other CG, Chris Green. And I was nervous because I'm like, man, I'm a 9th grader. Like, I'm trying to make a name for myself. And I think I did one move in the first quarter. And all it took was that first move. And I'm like, all right, I'm home now. You know what I'm saying? And the OAL, I always tell people, like, if you could play in the OAL, you could play anywhere, especially back then. Back then, you could for sure. You know, you make a move, people running halfway on the court, referees got to hold people back. Sometimes the game will stop. But it was just that environment, you know what I'm saying? It was Oakland. It was that Oakland environment. It was that town environment that made you just thrive or want you to do more. So the OAL was everything for me, man. I loved it. And having Leon Poe on my team, shout out El Poe. I always tell people, I never hesitate to tell this people, I got to North Carolina besides just the graces of God, Leon Poe, and the attention that he was getting. You know, we would be at practice. It would literally be 8 to 9 D1 coaches. I remember one time it was Duke, Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm talking about at a practice to see Leon. And we had a tournament my 10th grade year in Florida. And I'm oblivious to coaches and the names of coaches back then. We had an early game. We wound up winning. And Coach Mack, shout out Coach Mack, who was our coach at Tech. He walked up to me. He was like, "Hey, man, Coach Williams really likes you." I'm like, "Who the hell is Coach Williams?" He like, "Williams, he coach at Kansas at the time." I'm like, "All right, that's what's up." Like, I'm telling you, bro, I'm just oblivious. I just love the hoop. And from that point, I went back home and I got my first letter. I don't know if I told you this, Al, my first letter was from Nebraska.
I didn't know that.
And I go home and I'm joking with my dad, like, "Man, your baby boy moving up in the world." Like, I got my, I'm joking. And it turned into, to this day, bro, I still have boxes of letters I've never opened, never touched. You know what I'm saying? But Leon Poe really created a lot of that, just bringing that interest. And again, what parents who may see this, kids who may see this,
Yeah.
you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
And you never know what chance or opportunity that you can get just from somebody else being on your team or somebody that you're around. They can't recruit everybody. Leon couldn't go to every college. He could only go to one. So, it was just a blessing in disguise to have Leon there with me, man. And so shout out to El Po and B Ward and people like that who just embraced me and had me around, and I got the benefit off of it.
Q, I'm from the city. I grew up in the city. I'm on the other side of the bridge. If my memory, I grew up playing basketball and everything. I played basketball in college. Did you committed super early? Do I remember that correctly?
No, I didn't. I committed, I want to say my junior year, maybe senior. I always get them. It was either the end of the junior year. Yeah, it was in the junior year. I committed the end of the junior year. Then I, of course, signed my letter of intent my senior year. But DeMarcus Nelson.
You might be thinking of Markey.
Yeah, DeMarcus Nelson was the one who committed. I always joke with Markey. I'm like,
Duke was like an 8th grader, right?
Yeah, I'm like, boy, you committed to Duke when you was in the 5th grade, boy. Like, you was just playing with Coach K. You know what I'm saying? But nah, I just kind of just embraced it, man. Like, it's not always fun. Al will tell you like that recruiting process isn't always easy. It's draining mentally, physically. It's draining because you're pushing yourself to get accepted to a school that you want to be at. But I never had a dream school, as crazy as it may sound. So I just kept pushing myself, started getting recruited more and more. Just about all the schools in the Pac-10 at the time were recruiting me. The Cows, the Oregons, UCLA. I almost went to UCLA, but they had Jordan Farmer. And, and then Allende was at Cal. So I was just like, I don't know where I want to go. And Coach Williams, after they lost to Syracuse, after they lost to Melo, he went to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And once he went to North Carolina, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, oh, they're not recruiting me. Because no disrespect to any other school, even Kansas is a phenomenal school. But I just thought at that time, it's still kind of like a gap.
And more at that time, man. North Carolina, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At that time, I'm watching Above the Rim, you know what I'm saying, with Pac and them, and he trying to go to Georgetown, and he playing the white kid at the time. He's like, oh, this is Mr. North Carolina. So you hearing it in movies and a whole bunch of stuff. But that's how I actually went to Carolina, man. He went to Carolina, and assistant coach, Coach Rob, and Coach Holiday, they called me Coach Williams. And I'm like, y'all still recruiting? Like, at Carolina? And I'm talking about, our class was deep. Like, I always tell people that 04 class was, and Carolina was recruiting J.R. Smith, Sean Livingston, Dwight Howard. A lot of people didn't know that. Marvin Williams, who wound up going there with, who I went there with. And he only had one scholarship left. And I took my visit to Kansas. I took a visit to Arizona State as well. And I still wanted to take one more visit, but I know time was of the essence, you know what I'm saying, with one scholarship left. And Russell Robinson, I don't know if remember him, Al. Russell Robinson from New York that went to Cal. We took our visit to Kansas at the same time. Okay. And so that Sunday they were trying to get me to sign. I'm like, no, I'm not ready right now.
Right.
That Monday, my mom called me, 5th period. I'll never forget this, 5th period at Tech. And she's like, Russell committed. to Kansas, and they only had one scholarship left.
Oh,
But
wow.
Coach Self was still trying to figure out a way to get me there with Russell.
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, I don't want to put myself in a position where I miss out and now I have to go to a school that I don't really want to go to. You know, I knew it was other schools, but it was like a school that I chose that I want to go to.
Right.
So I'm like, forget it. I'll just verbally commit to Carolina. I don't have no family. I had never been in the state of North Carolina. Didn't even know what Franklin Street was at the time. You know what I'm saying? And my mom is like, you sure? I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's a dangerous question.
yeah, I'm like, at least, I'm like, I know I'll probably be on a winning team possibly. And I know in 4 years I'll leave with a degree. Like I'm trying to have my adult moment at the time.
Yeah,
Like, well,
yeah.
I'll leave with a degree.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I went through everything. I went through the good, the bad. You know, I learned about politics in basketball at that level. You know what I'm saying? But I also met so many amazing people. You know what I'm saying? Not just on my basketball team, just in the state of North Carolina and everywhere else. And I got to grow under somebody like Raymond Felton, I had Sean May, Rashad McCants, who was just a freak of nature when we were in school. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the David Noels, the Jawad Williams, the Melvin Scotts, the Jackie Manuels. And then after that, then I'm playing with the Tyler Hansbros, the Taiwan Lawsons, the Danny Greens. Shout out DG. And like I said, man, it was just, I think for me, as crazy as it may sound, it was like you could ask Al, I think I always just try to see the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? And I dealt with injuries, bro. I had my first injury. Me and Al were playing in Vegas, 8th grade, going to high school. And that's when I first messed up my knee. And the whole 9th grade year, Kaiser Permanente. I went to Kaiser Permanente, Al. They told me, you're just having growth pains. Like that, the knee, the pain you're feeling in your knee is just growth pains. And again, because of Leon Poe, he was close to Dr. Ting, who did a lot of help with people and surgeries with a lot of athletes, pro and kids at that time. And he took an x-ray, an MRI, and he turned to me and my dad. He said, he said, son, how long has your knee been hurting? And I'm like, pretty much the whole season, on and off, but still been able to play. He said, son, you've been playing with a torn meniscus your whole year. And this is a day before we play in the OAO championship.
Wow.
And I'm like, damn, like I didn't know, but I always had a high tolerance for pain, you know what I'm saying? But it was just things like that, man. And when I got to college, I still had to deal with knee injuries, torn ligament, stress fracture in my foot. Some games, most times I was coming off the bench, second string, third string. Bobby and Ty get hurt. Now I'm starting. And I always tell people I've experienced everything you can experience at that level, but I also had to endure and embrace all of that because it didn't just make me a better player. It made me a better person. It made me a better man. And it helped me to help people behind me, whether it's my sister or whoever, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even have to know you to be able to share that game and be like, look, it's going to be hurdles. It's going to be a lot of hurdles. Al could tell you he was a pro, still is a pro. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be hurdles. Everything's not going to be easy. But it was just a blessing in disguise, man, through everything I went through. So I'm just thankful for it all, bro.
Yeah. And I know
Before we
that,
move, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, forgive me. I see
Please.
I see the post, good day to be a Tar Heel. I know it's special to be a part of the Tar Heel family. So, you know, I think we should lean in on that because so many of us would have loved to be in that position or just dreamed about it at some point. Can you tell us a bit about just what it means to be a basketball player at Chapel Hill, what the environment was like, how students treated you, you know, traveling? Can you just speak about that family, that institution, and what that did for you, what it was like?
I always tell people, man, like the summer was mayhem. Summer was mayhem in a good way because it's like you're working, you're training. You know how both you guys know how it is as far as playing sports and trying to improve your body, trying to improve your mental state. But then you got people like Shammond Williams, Ed Cota, Vince Carter, Twine, and I'm talking about coming back playing in the summer. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Duke down the street. So you got those people coming down. You got people at State coming down. Like the Dean Dome was mayhem just in the summer alone. You know, so I always tell people, you know, a lot of people look at people and be like, oh, I could do that. Or, man, he weak. I could do that. I'm like, man, you wouldn't last 3 months.
Trust me, I know. I
know,
didn't play it against this guy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you and Al, I'll tell you, bro, before we played y'all, we played the University of Penn. And I can't remember the kid's name. He was a raw guard that played for the University of Penn. And we're in the game. And it's probably second half, game almost over. And somebody's shooting free throws. I'm just standing there at half court. And he walked up to me. He's looking up first before he says anything, looking in the rafters. He's like, bro, what is it like practicing in here every day? Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, oh, like this is big. When somebody asks you what it's like to practice, you know what I'm saying? And to leave Tech to go my freshman year and to go to the tournament. And a lot of people don't even get to see the tournament, man. Like that was just a blessing in itself.
Right.
We had 30,000 people at our practice, bro. Like at our practice. And we playing, you know, I got to play in Rupp Arena. I got to play in Cameron. So you're not only playing iconic players, you get to play against iconic and Hall of Fame coaches. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we played in the Final Four. I got to experience 2 Final Fours while I was here. The first year winning the national championship. And I always joke because when we beat Illinois in the national championship, all my teammates are just running on the court, confetti falling, and everybody's hugging, jumping on everybody. I'm the only one. You can look in the picture now. I'm the only one shaking hands because in my head, I'm like, this is fake.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is that one shining moment. Like, this is what we watched as kids, but to be a part of it. And, you know, Mike and rest in peace to Dean Smith, like, they were always around us. Well, not always, but Dean Smith was. Dean Smith had his own office, but Mike came to a practice. And we kids, man, in the tournament, and Mike was out there with some baggy corduroys and his hoop earring. And he like, man, so what we betting? I'm like, we like betting what? Like, we ain't bet nothing with you. What we gonna bet?
Michael Jeffrey, we college students.
Hey man, maybe you got a problem.
Like, what we got? Yeah. When I watched The Last Dance, I'm like, nah, Mike got a gambling problem. I'm like, Mike, he said he got a competitive problem. I'm like, Mike got a gambling problem because Mike was trying to bet against kids. But
he can clean it up however he wants. But he got a gambling problem.
You can clean it up. I was at practice when you were shooting half the shot, betting kids. But it was just stuff like that, man. And just to have those type of people around you, you know, I never thought about going to the NBA till I got to college or even playing as a pro overseas. But it's like, it's a factory at this point. You got walk-ons playing pro. Right. You have, you know what I'm saying? And not just pros as far as basketball, people just succeeding in life, being professionals in what they do best. Yeah. So again, man, it was just a blessing, bro. Like just to be in that atmosphere. And to this day, like I can still go to the Dean Dome. And I've been shot music videos in the Dean Dome, 12 o'clock, midnight. Could go in the Dean Dome whenever I want. They got the little hand scan. And I could take people to games, get tickets for people to games that maybe never got a chance or maybe never would get a chance to go see Carolina play. So all of that type of stuff is the stuff that meant the most to me, looking back on it, you know what I'm saying? Just being able to share that with people I love and care for.
That's awesome, man. And I know Sam got some questions, but I should say for the folks that are watching right now and wanted to hear more about Q's rap career, some of the amazing things he's doing, I'm just realizing we don't have time to pack it into one. So he will definitely come back. We got his word. He'll come back and we'll do a more music focused episode with you, Q, because I mean, wow, you've had a legendary hoop career, but some of the things you're doing in music equal that, if not, you know, even excel. So I know that people probably want to hear about that, and I promise we need to give that its own space. I just want to say
I'll be back. Don't even worry. Y'all got me.
I'll be back. Sam, I know you got some questions. I'll let you take over.
Before we jumped into college, you said he had a couple quadruple doubles. What was the fourth stat? Steals?
Yeah, some games I would have like 10 steals. I remember I forgot, it was like preseason games, but it used to be like a goal of mine. Like before, you know, of course, it was popular with the Big O, and then now with Westbrook dropping triple double. J Kidd at that time was dropping triple doubles all the time. So it was just, I was one of those players, and I used to joke with Al. I was like, man, I feel like I could drop 40 and 50 a game if I wanted to, or try to see how much I could score in a high school game. But I was cool with getting 20 and 12 and 15, you know what I'm saying? Because I was a winner. So like whatever it took, as long as we end up with the W, because I know we all know a lot of players that could drop 40 and they've taken a lot of L's too. You feel me? Or they dropping 40 and giving up 40.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just like, I just love winning, man. I just love to win, whatever it took. It didn't even matter. And I always had bucket getters on my team. So for me, it wasn't even about scoring. It's like, we win, you get your 20, Lipo, you get your 30, we cool. But then when my junior year and senior year, junior year was just me and Leon. And, Mondo left, Deuce left. So people like, oh, Q can't score. He don't, like, it ain't that I can't score. But even when, I can say this, I was the kid that when I was growing up, I didn't practice on my shot. I couldn't shoot like Alex. I couldn't shoot like T-Time and other players that we play with. But it wasn't that I couldn't shoot. I never worked on my shot as much as they did. Like he told you, I was the one dribbling for hours, working on passes. I would just throw behind the back passes to the wall, back and forth for hours. And then when I got to college, my junior year, I tore my ligament in my thumb and had a stress fracture during the summer. So that's when I fell in love with shooting. And to this day, like I was like, even now, I'm like, I go to the gym, I'm like, damn, I wish I shot like this. You know what I'm saying? But I just never really worked on my shot back then. Now, with social media and everything, these kids see all of these different things and see how players are evolving in different ways. So it's kind of hard to be like, well, I'm only going to do this one thing, or I'm only going to do these two things. Now you got kids 7 feet. You got KD, who is playing like a guard, you know what I'm saying? Like, and will splash you 40 feet from long distance. So I think, again, it was just the type of player I was, but I was also blessed with scores. I feel like if I didn't have the type of players that I had around me, I would have scored more when I was younger.
Right.
I had them. You know what I'm saying? I had them. So it wasn't no point to, well, I'm gonna battle you to see who scores the most. It's cool. Get your bucket. Again, as long as we win, I'm Gucci.
Pure sibling rivalry, right? Like for 3 years in high school, I'm just watching Q be a superstar. And we talked about my story. Like I had to play freshman and JV. I had to wait my turn at St. Joe's. Like I had all these humbling moments where I felt like I should be on a bigger stage and I'm ready to have my coming out party, and it was denied me, So senior year, when it's finally like my program essentially, and I finally get handed the keys, and I was putting up some number, I'm hyped, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, yeah, I'm about to show everybody now, right? And Q and I were extremely close, man. So I would hit him up almost after every game. I went to most of his games whenever they didn't conflict with ours. And I remember distinctly, man, hitting him after one of my best games. I think I had like 30 or just under 30, double rebounds. We won. I think I had like a couple of dunks. Like, I just was like, man, I'm feeling the top of the world, man. And I hit Q like, yo, put this up tonight. Like, man, we balled out, man. I'm feeling great right now. How was your game? Q texted me back his stat line. I want to say it was something stupid. Like, I'm going to butcher the exact numbers, but it was like 38, 14, 12, 7, 5. Something like serious, not joking. Like, we can go look it up. Yeah. And I just remember being like, bro, what am I supposed to do with this? You know what I mean? Like I don't even know how to explain it, because mentally everybody in the Bay knew Q. He was a passer, he was skilled, he had crazy handle, and he was a winner. But a lot of people wouldn't be like, oh, he's not putting up like DeMarcus Nelson stats. DeMarcus is leading the state all time in like scoring and rebounding for 4 years.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like this thing of like, man, Q is stupid nice, but when you think of like these crazy stats, you don't think of him. Man, he had them, he just saved them for like when he really needed to use them, which was crazy. Right. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, when I get 30 points, it's like something to write home about. It was incredible. It was a night to remember. Q gets it, and it's like no one's even talking about it, because it was just that effortless. And that's that I always say would be like the difference between playing with a Q and then just like somebody else that had amazing stats is like you might lead a game and be like, yo, Q played pretty well. He had a nice game. It was pretty solid. You look at the stats and be like, oh my God, he had one of the greatest basketball games in history. And you didn't think of it like that because he wasn't ball dominant. He wasn't, shooting over triple teams. He was just making the right play every single possession.
Q, do you remember that game?
I do remember what Al was talking about. I don't remember the specific game, but I always tell people too, I went to Oakland Tech. So again, being in Oakland, it was a hood school. Al, we didn't keep stats like that. Like our coaches didn't even keep stats. So when I got to Carolina, before I got to Carolina, they asked you, well, what were you averaging? I'm like, I think I averaged like 18, 8, and 8. So that's what they wrote down. Like I could have, who knows? I probably broke records while I was in high school.
I'm pretty sure it was more than that, just based on like after every game us talking and seeing what it was. That sounds low to me.
I think it was just, again, like we got the win. All right, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I always joke because I'm like, if we had social media back then and YouTube back then, like it would have been mayhem. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, it also could have been more conflicting to me. And, we were kids. So
you don't know what it's doing to you.
Yeah. Would I have been able to handle that as a kid, being, a teenager and having even more, I couldn't imagine being 15, 16 years old with 100,000 people just following me. Like, because Al knows, like, I love to be recognized for what I did, but attention wasn't something that I was seeking. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how it would have been in that type of, in this era with social media and that type of stuff.
I mean, no one really does, to be honest. Like they're still doing studies. Like Facebook is burying data because of, the bad press that they're getting with, the anxiousness that it causes you, and the mental health problems with kids. Like no one really knows. So, there's always going to be like an unknown.
But I love my dad so much, man, because to this day, and Al, I could say here, I'm putting together a documentary, and Pops has tapes from, I'm talking about when I was 1 to college.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm talking about when these tapes come out, people are gonna be like, damn, like you was doing that in the 4th grade. Like I was playing CYO, and I would watch Magic Johnson highlights in the past where he throw this.
Yeah.
I was 10 doing this, you know what I'm saying? And I have it on film. So to be able to show that, I think it'll be special when people, and you in those tapes, you know what I'm saying?
I was going to say, it's crazy because this was definitely pre-social media, internet, YouTube, all that. But there's not a single game I remember playing with Q where his Pops wasn't in the last row filming. A single game over. We played together, I would say almost nonstop for 9 years, 10 years before college. Played against each other in college one game, almost played on the same team overseas. I don't remember one single game. Obviously, when you were at North Carolina and someone else was filming, ESPN was filming it, but in high school, junior, middle school, AAU tourneys, Bush Rock, Easter tournament, Reckley's, Pops was filming the games, and I always thought that was going to be special one day. I can't wait to see that, man. And you got to let us.
It's dope, man. So I told myself, if I'm ever blessed to have a child or children, man, even if it's not sports, but whatever they do, I'm filming it all, man. Because Pops was on his Kanye hype back then.
That's Cootie.
His point guard documentary on Netflix.
He was really on his Cootie. He was really on his Cootie hype. Netflix need to give Pops 30 mil. You feel me? He was on his Cootie hype back then. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's special because a lot of times, all we have is memories, and we could talk about it. Some people can over exaggerate it, under exaggerate it, but to actually have it, you know what I'm saying? So.
And for the next generation, they just won't believe the story as much as they'll believe watching it, right?
Right. So I told my dad when I go back home, I'm gonna be back in the town next week. I'm like, man, we about to sit down for like a couple of days, put everything on DVDs, hard drives, and go from there. But we're gonna get it rocking. But once I got it, I'm gonna bring it to y'all first, so y'all have it.
I can't wait, man. It's gonna be amazing. It's
Talking Swish exclusive.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. We out here, y'all. Man, there's a couple of questions I gotta ask. Like, I just feel like the world would be remiss. One is, for all the kids that look at you and it's their dream to play point guard for the University of North Carolina. Can you now, after having gone through your whole journey, maybe just give some suggestions on, the way they should be looking at the game, some drills they should be doing, anything, any advice, guidance for a young kid that wants to be in that position? Can you share with them maybe something that only you would know that might help them get closer to it?
It's crazy because I feel like even with this advice, I'm giving the advice to whatever children may see this, teenagers, parents. But to answer your question, it's stuff that I'm still dealing with at 36 years old. And it's like, try to have tunnel vision the best you can. And it's harder for kids, man. I totally understand, because you might see your teammate with, well, my teammate has 30,000 followers and I only got 5,000 followers. And well, they don't really talk about me. Like, I mean, we got examples like Ja Morant when he's hooping in a gym on the side from everybody else, and the coach walks by and he sees him. Just love what you do, man. Work hard, work hard. Know it's a journey. Know it's a journey. Know that everything is not just going to be handed to you. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? And, if you have a dream school, who am I to tell you that you can't reach that? Go for it, but also know, if you have a dream school and you don't make it to your dream school, you're not a failure. And I hate when people say, oh, that kid didn't make it to that school, he's a failure, she's a failure. Have your own level of success for yourself and work on that. Continue to work on your game. I always tell kids, man, Al was a way better student than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I wasn't a bad student. I just didn't like school. You know what I'm saying? But I still had 3.0s. It's crazy when you say that, because some people be like, oh, well, did you almost flunk out? Like, nah, I still had 3.0s, but school was just like, whatever. But take that time to put forth the effort in the classroom, put forth that effort on the field, in the gym. If you're a musician, take the time to play those keys, to pluck those strings, whatever it may be that you love, just continue to love it. And I promise you, for me, I have a strong spiritual background. I put God first in everything. I wouldn't be anything without him. And, with God and just a strong village around you, family, and keep the right people around you, especially nowadays, man, because you have a lot of feeders around you. They'll try to benefit off you any way they can. Al could tell you, we had a lot of people who, when we were in high school, they were around. When we were in college, they were around. Start going through different things in life, people slowly start fading away. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure all of us experienced it at some point. Mm-hmm. Just try to keep the right people around you. And again, just try to keep tunnel vision and stay focused on what you're focused on.
I love that. Run your own race. I love that.
Yeah, words, man. And then another question I really want to ask you is, you maybe more than anybody I know, played with a lot of NBA players, a lot, man, from high school to obviously North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Can you describe maybe some things or some players that impressed you and what they were doing, in your opinion, that made them just so exceptional at the game? Be it their work ethic, their athletic gifts, their mindset, who impressed you that you played with and went on to play in the league, and what did they do that you think was largely responsible for them having that success?
I think everybody, one person, Marvin Williams, when I got to UNC, after every practice, Marvin was always working on his game. Before practice, he was always working on his game. Tyler Hansbrough, to this day, was one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. Danny Green, and I always bring up DG. It is like my little brother. Shout out to DG. But a lot of people didn't expect DG to have the career he has now. I was in Reno on a Greyhound bus having a tryout with the Reno Bighorns. Danny Green was in that gym with leaves on the court. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't even have their own gym. They had to borrow a facility, a workout facility just for that team. And the weekend I left there, I didn't make the team because due to my knee injury. That's when DG got picked up by the Spurs. And fast forwarding to now, you look at him with 3 championships. You know what I'm saying? You look at him, I could be wrong, don't quote me, but I think next to Mike from the University of Carolina, I think DG has the most rings just from that university. But his path wasn't straightforward. Nobody's path is straightforward, but you know, everybody wants to reach the destination, but it's only a few people that's willing to drive there and to drive around mountains and drive through peaks and valleys. And it's not easy. Nothing is easy in life that you want to obtain. But I always give credit. I always tell him, Joshua Johnson, I can't forget Josh, who just signed with the Denver Broncos. So shout out Head.
My God.
I always tell him, I'm
Whose
like,
dad
bro,
coached both Sam and myself.
facts.
Yeah. Gordy was my college coach, and actually Josh came down and hollered at us when we were still in school.
Right. So
Yeah,
Josh, to still be a pro. And I always tell him, I'm like, bro, you're a pro in every sense of the word because you're always staying ready. You keep your body ready. That's along with being a father, being a businessman. And it's just a lot of people that, I mean, the list is endless. People I played with, played against, but they had to grind to get there, man. So it takes a lot of work, but you can achieve any and everything you want to. And a lot of times, if you work hard, you obtain stuff that you didn't even think that you would. Like to this day, I think I still have the second most wins in North Carolina, not because I did that by myself. I was just blessed to play with great players and a great team and have a great coaching staff for 4 years. And I remember my senior year, I held the record for 1 year because Tyler and them, once they won the national championship, they had it by 1 game. But, you know, to be in a record book like Carolina, to say, oh, you got the second or third most wins in Carolina history, like, you know, it might not mean everything or the world to me, but it's like, that's still important. That's still something that I achieved. And, you know, I just always tell people to give your all, and you never know who's watching. And basketball and sports are cool, but also have a good character about yourself, man. I said it earlier, but character could take you so far because, you know, a lot of kids, you go in some of these AAU gyms and they cussing out the ref, they cussing out their teammates, they cussing out the coach. And they think, well, I dropped 40, like every school want me. You know, school's not going to deal with you because they'll just recruit somebody right after you that's just as good as you, if not better.
Yeah.
So it's like, treat people right, man. Be a good person. And one thing I can share with y'all that I'm doing myself, I think my favorite word these days is practice. And not just for sports, but it's like, you have to practice being a good person. You have to practice being a good parent, a good sibling, a good friend, whatever it may be. Just practice, continue to practice it. And that thing becomes second nature to you. You know what I'm saying? But just know you always have eyes on you.
Man.
Wise words, man.
Very
Appreciate
wise
that.
words, bro. And I mean, you know, I got 6 million more questions, but I feel like we coming right at that point of the time. So I just want to say, you know, as your brother, as your cousin, as your teammate, as your peer, as your friend, you definitely excelled in that area in terms of I've met a lot of very successful athletes, performers, talented people all over the world. And very few have the character that you have. And again, even just what you said would be the type of person to welcome so-and-so that might be competing with you for your position and meet, you know, that you don't know, that's not from your block, and make them feel like family the moment you meet them. That's a gift, man. And that's why I know you've had the success you have and you'll continue to. So thank you for being that person, man, in my life. Thank you for being that role model for so many Oakland kids. And we are incredibly proud of you, man. And
thank you, bro. That means a lot to me. And you know, I want to shout y'all out. What y'all are doing, giving people this platform to tell their stories. You guys, if you don't know it, you guys are gonna help people, change lives, save lives. So what you guys are doing right now, man, you guys have my support, regardless if I'm on here or not. You guys always have my support beyond talking swish. And just the men you guys are in display. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing what y'all doing. Y'all know I'm always rock with y'all. Shout out to everybody who's been a part of this, watching this. Shout out to Carolina right now in the getting ready for the Sweet 16 game against UCLA. The women getting ready to play South Carolina women for the Sweet 16. So it's just beautiful to see, you know. So best of luck to everybody that's still in the tournament. Best of luck to everybody just in life, man. Just trying to spread love for sure.